we had a multi-site, multi-campus, large staff, $14 million budget. But at peak capacity, we'd have like 4,000 people on a weekend, which is less than 1% of the lost people in the county, right? So the answer to reaching the world isn't getting people inside of the church. The answer is...
Welcome to the yesHEis podcast, where we talk about sharing your faith with confidence so that you can play your part in helping the world know Jesus.
You guys do what you guys do.
Yeah.
Because you're genuinely fun to listen to.
Stop it, Pat.
You are.
I think the podcast just started then.
Really?
Have we started? Are we recording? Oh, look at you, Jesse, hitting record again. Which is my camera again? That one. Okay.
Oh, should I look at which one? I can make looks
if
into
you're
it.
speaking,
That
if
one?
you want to speak to people, which you don't have to do, but if you want to, you can.
I'll make Jim faces.
The
Like
wide one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And Jesse can digitally.
Jim
How's that?
Halpert.
Jim?
The Office.
But the fake office.
Yeah. So
Well-
this is a British man.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'll respect the Ricky Gervais Office, but you got
Gervais, but whatever.
that guy.
Well,
You got to admit that the American Office, it did take a life of its own
I do admit that, but a lot of things take a life of their own.
and supersede their predecessor, like the American Office. I'm just messing with you.
and
You're a boxer.
lucky guys, and here's a segue.
That's an
There
excellent
was no
point you missed.
predecessor to the yesHEis podcast, which you guys are listening to right now. You've come in. This is my bad. I'm so sorry. I should have thought that having an American and an Englishman in the same podcast.
They'll
and
win
bringing
every
up,
time.
Bringing up The Office.
I'll just touch.
Yeah, we should not have.
Someone
brought
brought
that
up The Office, and if you guys have just tuned in, there's been a little bit of a tussle between Mark and our unannounced guest.
Ricky
is this
Gervais at the Golden Globe said that the British office went for quality, not quantity.
And that's all.
I'll leave it there. I'll let the subtext talk for itself.
That's right.
True
Well,
British
guys,
way.
welcome to the yesHEis podcast. We are here today with our very good friend, a new friend, but an awesome friend, Pat Linnell, and he's from Grace Bomb.
Come on, Pat.
Yeah, Grace Bomb.
And he is fresh on Australian shores from the United States
Yeah.
of America,
From our nation's capital.
from our nation, or just outside. I tried
That's
to
what
do an
Forrest Gump
American.
says, isn't it?
That was
Oh,
pretty good,
oh,
Mark. You
thanks
sounded
so
like a
much,
hockey
Pat.
announcer from our nation's capital.
A
Your
hockey announcer. That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll do next.
Capitals.
Oh, no, he hit the puck hard and they've won. There you go. I'm nailing it already.
Do you know ice hockey?
Kind of. I know what ice and hockey are.
Okay.
Apparently, they go together with ice hockey.
What's to know? Do you know, I actually used to play this. You'll probably laugh at me, but I used to play hockey, but on rollerblades because there was no ice where we
Yeah.
were.
That's legit. That's legitimate.
Yes.
That's
Nah,
hockey.
he's being polite.
It's
I can
roller
tell
hockey.
he's
No,
being
no,
polite.
it's
Did you
legit,
see the
man,
way he
because
said,
if you
yeah, he's
fall-
like, yeah, okay.
If you
Okay.
fall on like concrete or bitumen or whatever you were like skating on, that hurts more than ice.
Yeah, that's true.
You
True.
don't
I
slide
mean, it's a
without-
variant of the world's, probably most skillful sport.
What? Hockey?
Yeah.
ice hockey.
Is it?
Like if you think about it, I get it. Football's big, soccer's big, hand-eye. But ice hockey, you're hand-eye coordinating
Yeah.
while you're on two tiny little blades, moving it, 30, 40 miles per hour,
Wow.
while grown men are trying to knock you over.
out.
And there's not like, oh, let's blow the whistle because we have to go another 5 yards. You play until someone gets hurt or the puck stops. So it's
so
literally
When you
good.
put it like this,
What
man.
a sport.
What a sport.
Yeah.
And you're
What a
allowed to have a
sport.
fight? Like,
Yeah.
that's the bit that baffles me. I'll sometimes, if I can't sleep, like I don't have any problem sleeping, but every now and then I do. And if I'm done with reading, I'm like, do you know what? I might watch some boxing
Yeah.
because I like boxing. And then once I'm done with the boxing, this is true. I'll be like, ice hockey fights. I'll just watch ice hockey fights because it baffles me, right? Because the refs just stand there
They just
and let them fight, and then arbitrarily are like, "Now you're done, and you're gonna go to the sin bin."
That's
I was
right.
like, "Why didn't you just blow the whistle before the
Right at
fight
the start.
started?"
Yeah, that's right.
It makes no sense. Explain, Pat.
Did you play ice hockey?
Yeah.
Or do you,
Yeah, I played.
Okay.
Did you have fights?
Yeah, I've been in a few fights.
Have you?
Yeah.
Like punchy in the face, nosebleed
Yeah,
fights.
not my best moment ever.
Really?
Can't explain it how it happened on this podcast because of the rating. However, But no, fighting's legit because it's a momentum. Hockey, like a lot of sports, is a momentum. It's psychological. And so if your team's not doing well, if you're down and you're not getting the breaks, and one of your guys goes toe to toe with somebody else, they're taking the burden of the whole team on, and they're trying to shift the momentum. They're trying to get the crowd into it, shift the momentum of the game. So fighting is actually a part of strategy in hockey. And the guys, they're pros. They know what they're doing. And they're respectable. They're shaking hands on the way out. They're grabbing a beer after the game.
After fighting each other. Why can't you do that in the church? Genuinely, I feel like we'd get more done. There'd be less,
if we fought more.
If it's just like, do you know what? You two just have a fight for 5 minutes.
And then
shake hands on the way out. I reckon everything would be
speed things up a bit.
It would speed things up.
The pastor blows the whistle arbitrarily right before somebody gets too hurt.
You guys are done.
Amazing.
Oh man, you'd have to put it in a report after. Anyway, I feel like we're getting sidetracked with hockey violence.
That's all right though. I didn't know that you played hockey, Pat. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so great. Yeah.
So you're like,
tell us more about who Pat is.
Yeah.
Well, sitting behind me is my awesome wife, Kristen.
Come on, Kristen.
Yeah, come on, Kristen. She's in the house. And we're coming up on 20 years marriage.
That's ages.
Yeah, it's great.
So
marriage
good.
is awesome. I think the past 2 years probably have been the best ever. Just we've been growing closer and getting after it. We have 4 kids.
How old are your kids? 4 kids?
Yeah, we have 4 kids.
That's loads.
So 16, 14, 13, and 10. 2 boys, 2 girls.
That's like almost Mormon level of kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're not quite Catholic, not quite Mormon.
Sorry, that's terrible. I apologize.
No, 4 is the borderline of crazy. If we
I love it. I think it's great.
If we flex up to 5 or 6,
Do you reckon you will?
No.
Why not?
Well, A, we're getting old and kids are tiring. And right now, like, we're past the stage of where you can control your kids. I love the toddler years because you can pick them up and put them down and tell them where to go and stay here. And, it sounds crazy, but I'm not a helicopter parent, but I feel like we should be able to microchip our kids, like legit, until they're 18 and they can dissolve after that. Because why not?
He's thought about this.
Yeah. Why not want to know where they are? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You kind of bit, can't you? Like
you can.
But
then they get savvy on you and they say, oh, my phone battery died and now you can't track me.
That's genius.
So
that is genius.
So we don't want to have more kids, I don't think, because right now, God love them all. In the teenage years, it gets to be a handful, especially when you're trying to help your kids own their faith in Jesus. Like our kids grew up in the church scene.
Right.
But now, they're in school and they're watching everything else people are watching, hearing everything else people are hearing. And they're having to make up their own minds about who Jesus is and if I want to follow him. Yeah, and it's a grueling place for a parent.
Yeah.
And so because you can't control anymore. No. You have to let go and hopefully what you've baked now that they're almost cooked is gonna stick.
Yeah.
So that's parenthood is awesome, but that's a little bit who we are.
Tell us a bit about this grace bomb thing then, right? Because I'm just now imagining being a teenager and having parents who've started this mad thing, which is basically surprising acts of love motivated by Jesus is your line, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Which is such a good thing.
Such a good line.
So exciting, so beautiful. Yeah. And you guys are immediately engaging and wonderful and have American teeth.
Thanks.
Just amazing.
Crest white strips.
Mate, is that what it is?
Yeah, and you don't even need to use a lot of them.
Mate, I literally feel like I need to put sunglasses on currently.
Jesse, could you just digitally put #spons on the screen?
Yeah. What is it? What?
Crest white strips.
All right, where do you get
But here's the funny thing is,
I had Washington, D.C.?
I had false teeth as a kid. I had no front teeth. I rotted them out from sugar.
Really?
Yeah.
Way.
And so, how
it's a redemption story?
I never had, it's about Jesus. I never had braces or anything because I had no teeth.
No way.
So when my teeth came in, they're straight today because I had all the room I needed for my teeth to come in.
Preach, Pat.
So,
Wow.
so listen, you can be a parent, rot your teeth kids out, and they're still going to turn out all right.
Wow.
Amazing. And there we go. Thanks for joining today's podcast,
Yeah.
guys.
I'd be like, if this is the first yesHEis podcast anyone's listened to, they'll be like, I thought it was a sports podcast. Then I think it's a marriage one. Now it's a parent one. Now it's a teeth one. Like,
Covering all our bases.
That's good. That's right.
okay.
You
So,
asked
yeah,
about Grace Bomb.
Tell us about Grace
Tell us
Bomb.
about Grace Bomb. I've
Well-
noticed your t-shirt says Grace Bomb.
You nailed it. So most people, I think, have heard of a random act of kindness, right?
Okay.
It's surprising, it's fun, it's unexpected, it's out of the blue. But when it comes to Jesus, nothing is random. He orchestrates
Wow.
people and places and times in our lives.
Yeah.
And also it's not random because as believers, if you're out there and you're trying to follow Jesus, he's pretty clear about loving our neighbor. Not just thinking about it or knowing about it or reciting a verse, but actually doing something where I'm going to engage a neighbor. And so a grace bomb takes what might feel like a random act of kindness and it gently implicates Jesus as its source. And so in doing that, we're pointing people to the source of that kindness, letting them feel this awesome surprise and getting them to think, well, maybe there's more where this came
Wow.
from.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way that we did that was we invented it about 5-6 years ago inside of a church. It was inside of a church sermon series. We built this thing for the congregation. We made these little Grace Bomb cards and we tied the Grace Bomb cards to a very simple website that did some of the talking for the person at first. And so it like gave them permission. So Grace Bombs come in all shapes and sizes and different ways. I can share some stories, but when you pass along that card, it's taking that extra step to flex that faith muscle to say, I'm going to bring Jesus into this.
So you're not paying for someone's coffee running away.
You're paying for coffee.
Yeah.
You might be running away, but you're giving them a card in the process.
Pay for the coffee, give the card, run away.
Yeah. And then you
Okay.
run away.
Okay.
And
Here you go.
yeah, exactly.
Getting too much, throw it over the face. Sorry.
Yeah. But here's the phenomenon. It's a habit and it's a spiritual muscle. So when you flex that a couple of times,
Yeah.
you're more likely not going to run away your fourth or fifth time you do this.
Okay.
And what happens when you don't run away? Well, you might allow for maybe a conversation or even a prayer. So it's building a
That's
faith
so
muscle,
good. Yeah.
but it can start anonymously. And the cards are like training wheels. So for your listeners, if you guys listen back a few episodes, I don't know who it was, but you had a cat sitting in this chair and he had a white shirt and you were commenting on his drip and it was, he's this young guy.
Cat is a person.
He was
Yeah.
the
FYI, cat is a person.
a cool cat.
Harry.
Harry Styles.
Yeah, Harry
And,
Styles.
Okay.
And he was the bubblegum guy.
Yeah.
He was the guy
In the
who told the
gas
story about,
station.
he was
Oh,
in the
yeah,
gas
yeah,
station, paid for this kid's bubblegum and now the kid is like a junior Billy Graham. And he's out there like going through the roll for Jesus.
Legit. Jesse was telling us last week, he's like running prayer.
That's
things in
amazing.
his
Kid,
right?
school.
yeah, the kid who
Yeah.
got, yeah.
So what happened was with Harry, he grace bombed someone, but then he had the ability to make that invite to church to say, hey, this isn't just me paying for gum, but God's involved somehow. And I'm at this church down the street. The reality is most believers don't have the ability to do what Harry did. And Grace Bomb helps get there.
Oh, wow.
It helps like become a Harry. So if I have a Grace Bomb card in my pocket and I'm out the gas station and I'm thinking about bubblegum, now I have a way to start bringing Jesus into this. So it's a baby step towards the Great Commission.
So you're an introvert. You're not as cool as Harry. You don't have the t-shirts Harry has. You're
Yeah.
not, you struggle with your confidence, but
Mhm.
you love Jesus and you want other people to know him as well. You get a Grace Bomb card. You quickly, just cut in line and tap the,
Yeah, that's exactly
you know,
right.
whether it's at the gas station or a coffee place or whatever. And you just like,
Doesn't
here's a
have to be
card.
much and doesn't have to
Give
be
them a
much at all.
smile, give them a card, leave.
Yeah.
And they'll be like,
And nowadays I'll still use the card a couple years into it, but I'll ask them, have you ever been grace bombed? And then I grace bomb them,
what do you mean? Sorry. So you're about to grace bomb someone.
Yeah.
And you'll say first, have you ever been grace bombed?
I like setting it up now. because I want them to know something's coming. And they'll look at me like, I
Oh
have
my
no
gosh.
idea what this
What
guy's
do you
talking
mean?
about.
I need to hear the stories. I can't wait to hear the stories.
Yeah. And they'll be like, no, what is that? A band? I have no idea what you're talking about. And then whatever the Lord lays on your heart to do. And some are monetary, some are not, some are words of encouragement or acts of service. And so many ways the Spirit can lead to invest in a neighbor. But I like to set it up and then I like to drop it. And I try to grace bomb in my like everyday walks of life because I want to see those people again so they know like I'm the guy who did
So
that
like
thing.
in your vicinity, like at your local store.
At my stores, at my gym, at my school, on my soccer sidelines, because I want to be able to bump
Your
into those
ice hockey
people again.
fights.
My hockey fights,
Buying your teeth strips. Yeah,
buying
I
the
get
Crest
it.
White strips,
Yeah.
the whole nine. Yeah.
I'm literally Googling Crest Wipes. 'Cause I'm like, if
Oh, I
my
thought you were
teeth
going to look up Grace Bomb, but you're.
I have two
I might-
kids, but if Laura...
It's so good because it's like,
Crest
it is
White.
that like just, it's that entry level right here. The
Yeah.
card's right here.
Here's the cards right here.
That's awesome.
Which one's my camera? This one? They look like that.
Yeah.
Which one is it? Like the one...
Yeah, the 14 piece. Quest Right strip.
14 piece. $3.98. That's not bad.
Your teeth are pretty white though, bro.
Yeah, but I'm not... It's no like pot
It's
white.
for a friend.
Not a marriage.
About to
My
send
teeth
the link.
they're
start
not
looking
for
as
you.
white as his.
You're
I
gonna,
will have 4 kids soon.
you're gonna grace bomb
joking.
somebody with Crest White strips.
Right, here we go. Here they are.
There they are. Yeah.
Oh, they look so,
so good.
good.
Yeah, they're just kind of fun.
Digitally zoom in on this.
And so,
How good is this?
so you listen to the Holy Spirit, your everyday life. You see an opportunity, buy someone's coffee,
That's so good.
do a favor for someone, whatever it is. You give them the card. There's this QR code on here, so which Mark is just zapping right now.
Now we're doing it.
Now we're doing
Now
it.
we're getting it.
Where does this take people?
Oh, it's taking me to the website.
It takes you to gracebomb.org and it's a 1-minute video. And basically it's saying, hey, we hope you felt the love. And this wasn't a
Yeah.
random act of kindness. It was
Yeah.
an intentional act of love motivated by Jesus.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that kind of gives permission for baby Christians, if you will. And when I say baby Christians, I don't mean that you just started following Jesus. I mean baby in the sense of I'm not really used to going public with my faith.
Right.
Because I don't know about over here or where you guys are used to, but the American church has a bubble problem. And what I mean by that is
Yeah.
we leave our churches and we stay in a Christian bubble.
Yeah.
We tend to roll with the other believers, stay within our worldview, different to get out. It's hard to get outside of our bubble. And this is a fun way to pop those bubbles.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for the bubble. Like Mark, you said, I'm introverted, I'm shy. And actually I'm pretty introverted. Like I like hanging out with you guys, but the reality is just 4 of us in a room. It's like not a big group.
So in a crowd, you don't love
in a
a
crowd, I get drained. I
Yeah.
try to like duck out. Like at a party, you're there for 10 minutes, take a picture and leave. And just so you can say that you were there. I'd
Yeah.
rather just go back and have garlic knots with Kristen in the hotel room. Like we just want to do our thing. But that when you're called to be, out in the world for Jesus, like that doesn't always line up. But also another thing about me is I grew up in a neighborhood where strangers were considered danger. And it wasn't like, Los Angeles, Compton area, but it was a place on the East Coast called Glen Burnie. So anybody out there from Glen Burnie, you know what I'm talking about. There's some elements in Glen Burnie. And I was raised with a very skeptical family, and we have neighbors that would approach the door and we would close the blinds and turn off the light.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And so I have to
This is
overcome
so
some
good.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, sorry. Right. So you grew up in a family. If even a neighbor comes to the door, the
Yeah.
blinds get closed, the door gets shut.
Yeah.
That says
Um,
something to like a formative mind.
And it does, exactly, it does.
Totally.
And I love what you're saying about the American church, because I get what you're saying, the bubble thing, but I think what I love about America is the Americans we know, every time we're around them, we go away thinking anything is possible. Like anything is possible. Like love the spirit and the attitude. But of course, what maybe can happen is there's definitely a Christian bubble in Australia, in the UK, but it's almost just like whenever America do anything, it's just bigger. And so the Christian bubble also in America is bigger. And
Like Christian festivals, Christian anything, right?
and like
you
what is
can-
it, Bible Belt? Like when there's a Bible Belt of where like a bunch of Christians live in the same place.
Yeah, that's right.
And so your response to that, even though it's like, oh, this could be actually damaging, is we are going to break this bubble by grace bombing people.
Yeah.
We're going to blow that bubble wide apart.
Yeah.
And I love that you've contrasted it's not a random act of kindness.
Mhm.
It's an intentional act of love motivated by Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the key, right?
That's the key.
So
And-
good.
Yeah.
I
So
think
good.
that's amazing.
It's great.
I think that's great.
I love that it's such a low entry level as well, because I mean, for myself, like I've been on this journey of like gaining confidence. Like from when I was like a young adult, fresh out of school, I was like passionate about Jesus, knew about the Great Commission, was all over it, but I'm like, I wasn't actually telling people I was a Christian fundamentally, or even having then obviously any opportunity to share the gospel. And so it's just been this journey like from there. And when you're in that place of just like, what do I do? Like I was in the bubble, like, you know, I was going to church, I was listening to all the Christian bands, I was like getting excited about my faith. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's nothing wrong with being in healthy Christian community. But I think what we're saying is that when that's a barrier to us actually interacting with people who don't follow Jesus, it's like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. But I think that's what I love about this is it's a big problem, but it's actually a really simple solution, isn't it? Because it's you know, I often think, big problem, it's got to have this big answer.
Yeah.
And the big answer is going to be like really hard and, you know, and like, yeah, it might be a challenge, but it doesn't have to be this like huge thing. It can just be like, hey,
do something lovely for
just
someone.
do something tiny.
Yeah.
And even like Tish, who if you listen to the podcast, you will have met Tish, who's on our team. She's well acquainted with talking to people about Jesus. But you guys have just arrived from America while you were on the plane over. She went to pick up this phone case, which I wanted to purchase, which was too far from my house, but it was close to her house. So I said, hey, Tish, can you just go and pick it up from the guy I'm buying it from? On the way there, she got chocolate from the supermarket and went to his house. And rather than taking the chocolate home to her family, which I don't know what her husband thought about this, she felt the Holy Spirit say, hey, just give the chocolate to the guy.
That she had grace the case from?
Yeah. So she just rocked up to his door, like got the case, and she had some grace bomb because Pat had sent some grace bomb cards over to us. And she had the grace bomb card. So she's just like, Tish is the kind of person that could be like, hey, look you in the eye and say, hey, I just want to give you this chocolate because Jesus loves you. But she did this like, she just went, hey, I kind of heard about this thing. Like, it's pretty cool. It's called Grace Bomb. I just wanted to give you this chocolate. Here you go. And then just left. Which was so funny because she could do way more than that. But she didn't. She just went in super low key. Like, that's just like bottom rung. Like, hey, I heard about this thing. There you go. The dude, he's the first story that these guys have heard about from Australia.
Oh, really?
Because the other guy wrote in. So with the website, when you've grace bombed someone, you can write in and share the story. But people who have been grace bombed, when they scan that QR code, they can write in. And he wrote in.
He wrote in?
Yeah, he wrote in.
What did he say?
And
I can tell you. I can tell you his words verbatim. Hold on.
This is unreal. This is unreal.
Yeah, he was stoked. Like he was,
Yeah, I have the back end of the website on my phone. So hold on. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm not looking at Quest Right strips, baseball, stories.
Hockey fights.
So, so Adam says, I was selling a phone case on Facebook Marketplace and the buyer paid me for it and gave me a chocolate bar, ! How cool, ! That's all he said.
That's it.
But having done that, he got to see that wasn't just a girl with a candy bar, that like God was somehow in that little moment. And you're right, Tim, it was like super low bar of entry into the game here of the Great Commission. But to me, like you said it, we do have a big problem. Like let's not underestimate. Churches are stalled and in decline. The ones that are growing typically grow through amazing programming and, you know, it's things like that, which I've been a part of that for a very long time, and very few grow through multiplying. And while that's kind of like the state of the union of the church, it also presents one of the most amazing opportunities we've ever seen, because that means you have this untapped, unignited, latent potential inside of these churches. So you have men and women and boys and girls indwelt by the Holy Spirit who are called and commissioned to be sent and currently they're just happily living in the bubble. But if we can find simple ways to ignite them, for them to see like, wow, this was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing with Grace Bomb is we get to tap in to God's leading edge of reaching the world, which I would contend Jesus said it when he said, listen, the rains are falling on the good and the evil. The sun is shining on the good and evil, on the Israelis, on the Palestinians, on Hamas, on everybody all at once. God's kindness is his leading edge, drawing all men to repentance. And so Grace Bomb is kind of like, I want to have some fun with that kindness. And that's going to be my leading edge. So like, let's say you have a neighbor and they completely disagree with your worldview and they think you're a Jesus freak or a nut job or whatever. And you kind of try to avoid them. It's like, how do I even bring up my faith? They're against it. Well, if God would lay something on your heart that they're into, that would bless them. Like if you took just enough time to slow down a little bit, see what that person is, the routes that they run, and what might be a fun surprise for them. Like that's a sweet way to essentially embody the gospel before maybe there be an opportunity to verbalize the gospel.
Oh, man, that's so good.
It brings together those two things for me, like the really low bar of entry, and sharing the gospel can and is actually more than that, right? Like there's a journey to explore, but I love how it's just this, the kindness is the leading edge. I love how you say that, because what a way for people to experience Jesus for the first time through this surprising act of love, and just being like, what, I got a chocolate bar? Oh, that's related to Jesus? Oh, man. Like imagine someone who's literally, or let's imagine anyone, okay? Someone who's against the church, who, you know, is hurt, or someone who literally has just never heard of Jesus. Like that would be equally mind-blowing for either of those people. So I love that. But I guess that's the experience for us as the Christian, is it's just this small thing that can be fun. But then the experience for that person is like we've talked about it in previous weeks of like, we're the heralds of the kingdom. Like, you know, the guy running back from the battle being like, the king's won. Like, you know, we have the victory. That's the good news. And for like in a grace bomb, that's the person's first experience of the kingdom. It's like literally they're experiencing generosity. They're experiencing love. They're, you know, we're not telling them about it. It's actually an experiential act.
But it's called, like what I love about it is you're doing something that's causing them to ask a question. It's not just, they're like not going, oh, thanks. Or, oh, that was nice. Like I remember in the city I grew up in, there was a bar that was about to be opened called Mr. Lynch's. And the advertising, the only advertising they did, and it was genius, was the busiest bridge in the city. It's called the Tyne Bridge. Every morning rush hour and evening rush hour, a bloke just went and stood on the side of the bridge and held a sign saying, "Who is Mr. Lynch?" ? And he did it for 6 weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to work every day, coming back every day, and you're like, who is that bloke? And why is he standing there? So, of course, what do you do? Who is Mr. Lynch? Bar opening at this date and this time. And they killed it. It was unbelievable. And it wasn't like, this is Mr. Lynch, this is Mr. You should come. It was just, who is Mr. Lynch? The key being, and we've talked about this in recent episodes, is it's not a random, it's an intentional act of love that is going to cause them to ask a question. And suddenly, and I love that you put on the bottom of your website, find a church near me. Not like come to our church. Find a church near me. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's giving them, resources. I just think it's amazing. Like it's such a great idea. And what did you say? The untapped potential in the church.
That's the way.
Yeah.
That is the way.
Because I get frustrated. as I'm sure a lot of people do, when I'm in a church service, we're part of, sometimes part of the worship team. So we get like a bird's eye view of what's going on out front. And we will give people an opportunity every Sunday to commit their lives to Jesus. And sometimes it just feels so, frankly, infuriating, because I'm like, I know all of these people, we're not in a huge church. I'm like, I know these people are saved. And I know you never know what's going on, but it's like, where are the messy, unchurched?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
We know them all. Everyone knows all of those people.
We do.
It's just they're not in that service. And
They're
again,
not
that's
in that
what I love
service,
about this. It's
and
like,
so we need a flipping
and that
grace
idea
bomb.
of untapped potential. Man, we keep referring to previous episodes, but I think I've said this in a previous episode. There's a like health food store across the street.
You're quoting yourself.
And I might be quoting myself. There's this guy called Tim, and he said this awesome thing about someone else who said an awesome thing. Like quoteception.
Quoteception. Wow.
And they have this sign on the front, and it reminds me of this is our modus operandi, I think, is like sustainability, like getting the world to a sustainable place, because that's what they're about, like sustainable living, sustainable food, like all of this stuff. And then we're not going to hit our goals if a small bunch of people like nail sustainability, like they do it in the perfect way. We're not going to get there.
Right.
But we are going to get there if a whole bunch of people, thousands, millions of people, do it in a really average way.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's
And
profound,
I think this is
Wow.
it. It's just like, we're not going to get the world saved by building amazing churches that give the best altar call.
Getting professional evangelists.
And
to go
get
out
professional.
there.
Like, we don't need the next Billy Graham. Like, we need you.
That's amazing.
Doing
That's
it in just a
great
really
quote.
average way.
You can record that in the next episode.
That's right.
Great.
I'm just setting myself up for
We don't need the next Billy Graham. We just need you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, put that on paper.
Yeah.
Put that on paper.
I mean, God bless him. Billy Graham's the dude.
Oh, man.
Was the dude.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, he nailed it.
But I mean, here's what is so encouraging. Here's what, let me pump you guys up, because here's what I'm so encouraged about what you come together and do and talk about. Because I feel like this upcoming generation, they do want to change the world, right? The world's messed up and it's not good. And we're inheriting so many people's problems. But the reality is, you don't change the world unless you change the man.
Right.
And you don't change the man with government or behavior mod or anything like that. You change the man with a new heart. The only thing that changes a new heart is the gospel. And for a really long time, we looked to the professionals. We looked to the Grahams and to the Houstons and to the you name it's and the who's a what's and the who is Mr. Lynch's and all of that. Like, we look to those people and say, if we get them to you, then you do your thing. And like, it's this model that's broken.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it's absolutely possible to reach the world if all of us just do a couple little things together. And in that way, like, you can actually have a generation that changes the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You were talking to us yesterday about, like, we don't have to go into the details of the stats, but when you're sort of doing the stats of your local church, you've got a great local church, like doing awesome things, like great programs, vibrant church, lots of people. You would need 100 of your churches in your county, were you saying?
Yeah. So I have a very low math level, probably like third grade, but it works. It works
but
for
it worked
this.
for this. Like,
it works for this. I think everybody can get a hold of this. So, I'm from the US and there's 50 states, and within the states, every state's broken up into counties. And so in my county, we have 550,000 people, 550,000 souls in my county. So we did some research and we determined that there's about 440,000 of those people who we consider lost, not tracking with Jesus, not a part of a church, just kind of figuring out their own way in the world. And our church is, like you said, the church that I had been a pastor at before stepping off staff to do Grace Bomb full time. We had a multi-site, multi-campus, large staff, $14 million budget. But at peak capacity, we'd have like 4,000 people on a weekend. which is less than 1%
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
of the
right.
lost people in the
unsaved
county,
people,
right?
yeah.
So, and it takes a lot to pull that model of church off, right?
Yeah,
And
you guys are
so
nailing it.
we just couldn't, like, you can't envision putting one of those churches on every corner. And even if you did have the staff and the budget and the resources, you still wouldn't be able to pack in the lost people inside. So the answer to reaching the world isn't getting people inside of the church. The answer is, or the question is, how do we activate the 110,000? See, there's the math. It's like simple subtraction.
So
right?
that's, breaking it down, that's 1/5.
Yeah.
Right. So
1/5.
1/5 of your county are following Jesus, 4/5 are not following Jesus. So I don't know if my math is right, but does that mean that every person just needs 4 other people?
I think I would pass that. I'll give you A on that.
Is that the maths?
I don't know.
I think that means every person just needs to have 4 other people in their sphere
Yeah.
who they're grace bombing, asking questions with, developing relationship. Because imagine if 110,000 people each had 4 people, they might double up. They probably will. If everyone's grace bombing.
So
then,
yours, yeah.
You know, like.
So you're saying, Pat, because we've been part of and know big churches,
Mm-hmm.
and to sit in a room of 4,000 people, I mean, at times once a year, it would be 30,000 people,
Conferences.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wow, we're nailing this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
of course, we weren't in a lot of ways, and as in terms of the contemporary church, you can be fooled into thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is basically my whole world is in one room. And it's,
It's perspective,
and
isn't it?
Perspective. And Pat, you were basically saying, like, what we doing? We could put like one, if it was even possible, we could put a church like this on every street corner and we still wouldn't be reaching people. And you're saying where the job of Jesus followers is not to get them all in here, which, if you're honest, the attractional church model in evangelicalism,
that's what I've had in my mind.
like, let's make the worship team really good, and like the pastor really cool, and give him a few tattoos,
I like ticking on all 3 of those boxes.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The attractional model, which is, we won't come to you, you're going to come to us because we're attractive enough,
Yeah.
But you're like, why? It's not working.
Yeah. And smart people have written books that basically are saying, like, yeah, we've done the math and it hasn't worked for a while. I mean, those churches will grow little by little, but it won't get the job done to accomplish the Great Commission in our generation. Just the math doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So there's a new responsibility and an onus for the tatted up, white teeth, cool professionals. Instead of being the ones who do all the work, they need to be the equippers of the saints.
Yeah, come on.
And entrust the saints with the responsibility, give them permission to live this out, meet them where they are. Like, let's keep it real. Most people in most churches are not ready to go out and share their faith.
Yeah.
I could give you an awesome way to share the gospel, and I could give it to 10 of my people, and only one's going to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're scared. They're still in their bubble. They've never gotten out of their bubble. So we have to gently walk them through taking some small steps of obedience.
Yeah.
And if they can find out that there's like joy on the other side of a step of faith,
Oh, mate, yeah.
now you're cooking with gas, because they got a taste and you have something to go with. Like, I'm probably not going to bring up Jesus with somebody I don't know, because that's one of the most personal, intimate things, in my life. And I'm told, like, don't bring up politics or religion. If I'm not first willing to spend $5 extra of my money and slide across the table, be aware of that person and hook them up with that,
Yeah.
like, I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's just start back here.
Yeah.
Let's slow down a little bit. Let's be a little bit more prepared. Let's become a little bit more aware of our neighbor. And ultimately, I think you could have cool cards, t-shirts, and websites and brands and all of that, and it's good and whatever. But the main thing that I think is going to allow us to actually grace bomb a neighbor, that motivation has everything to do with our proximity to Jesus.
100%, yeah.
Because if I'm not close to him, I'm probably not getting pushed towards my neighbor. And because that's where he is. Like he's over there with my neighbor. And if my intimacy and connection is closer with Jesus, I'm going to go where he's going to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's closer to your neighbor. Yeah. I remember a message, like a preach, preaching on the 99 and the 1. And he opened with, he was like, God is more concerned for your unsaved friend than he's concerned for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like,
yeah.
Expand. You know what I mean? But obviously, you know, he nailed it. And it was, and I love that. Like, where's Jesus? Oh, he is chasing after the unsaved friends, and he's saying, come with, you know, all that kind of stuff. Go on then. Where are you going?
Oh, this random analogy just popped into my head because I just really want to, we probably need to finish soon, but I just really want to speak to the person who is feeling like they're in that spot of like, really want to, like, I love Jesus and I know I need to do this, but I'm just, you know, I'm stalled by fear, you know, like I can't get across that line. We had a funny moment yesterday when Pat was hanging out with the team. Christian, one of the other guys in our team, invited you to do like a CrossFit class at the gym. And he looks at Pat. Hope this is okay.
Okay, then. I'm not sure where you're going with it. Go ahead.
No. And he said, because we were kind of wrapping up for the day, and he was like, hey, I'm going down to this like class. It's like a HIIT class, so like high intensity impact training, I think it's called, or something, where you'd like lift stuff and throw stuff around the room and whatever. And he'd basically like seen Pat, and Pat's got, you know, his muscles aren't huge, but let's be honest, they're there.
They're there.
And so Christian had looked at him and been like, oh, it looks like, you know, you're keen on the gym. Like, do you want to come down? And Pat like really just kind of politely declined. It was this awesome moment. But you used this word, farm strong. And like, I mean, you might be able to explain it better than me, but it's this idea of just like, well, I just kind of do life and I'm active in my life. And that's kind of why, you know, to Christian, like I look like I go to the gym, but I'm just like lifting my kids and I'm just, I go for a run every day. Eat well, you know, and so it's sort of like unofficial in that sense, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're fit.
You're not a professional.
But you're not professional. You're not like, you know, subscribed to the gym. You're not like going to an official HIIT class.
Yeah.
And so I think about that related to what we're doing here. And it's just like, if you're not feeling like, I mean, that honestly, you know, I don't know, if you're watching the video podcast, I don't really have a lot of muscles. I'm just going to be honest. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. But I love that idea of just getting fit by doing like it's an as you go fitness.
Yeah.
And when I think about grace bombing and sharing the gospel, you don't have to sign up to an evangelism class like you would have to sign up to a HIIT class. I think grace bombing is the perfect like as you go fitness for evangelism.
It's good, bud.
Just start like, you know, do the drop and run and just be like, oh my goodness. Yeah. But who knows? You might see that story come back onto grace bomb and you're like, oh my goodness, that was me. This can work.
Yeah.
I'm like, go again.
Yeah.
You know, and then just by making it like integrating it into your everyday life, you will get fitness. You will get your faith muscles, like you were saying before, you will grow, you know?
That's great, mate. Great.
This is like a 2 ounce weight. It's very, very lightweight.
I reckon it'd be cool for Pat to pray for those people who are actually their hearts are starting to race because they're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do this, but I really want to do this.
Yeah.
And if I've just got something like this in my hand, that is at least going to be a start where I can, you know, pay for that coffee, give them that, run away.
Yeah.
Like, I reckon, if you could like commission them, pray for them.
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
That would be great
right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Heavenly Father, we just want to pause here as we're listening, driving, sitting, chatting, talking. First, we acknowledge how good you are. Yeah. Thank you for your grace showing up in our life in so many ways. Thank you for your son who died on a cross to save us from our sins. Thank you that changes everything. It makes us new from the inside out. And I pray for my brothers and sisters out there hearing about this way to maybe break the ice with a neighbor. And I pray that you give them a spirit of courage and boldness. Remind them that they are mighty in your hand and that you don't need much, Lord, to accomplish amazing things. But let it be our willingness to take one small step that you'd work and move mightily. And also, Father, we do pray for cool things to happen as we grace bomb neighbors, but ultimately, may this be our way that we tell you, I love you back, that we would obey your command as you tell us to love our neighbor. We want to actually do that. We want to be light and be grace. So for those maybe feeling like, maybe I can, maybe I can't, cut through all the crap, cut through all the noise, and may your spirit gently prompt and tug and nudge to a place where ultimately we grow closer to you. And because of that, we can make a significant and serious and massive change in our world that's desperately needed. This is your world, and I know you want a redeemer. So help us be a part of this. We pray this in the mighty name of Jesus today.
Amen.
So good.
Pat, thanks so much for jumping on the pod today.
Yeah, it was fun.
This isn't going to be the last time. This is definitely not going to be the last time.
Yeah, I think it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And can I tell people how to get it? How to get these?
Yes, I'd love you to. Yeah.
I want to know because I'm like, dude, we need this for our church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Go on.
So if you're just out there, individual, just gracebomb.org, you can cards are free. We give these all over the world.
I love not paying for stuff.
We're just sending them out.
Yeah.
So
just say I love
grab
not paying.
cards.
I just love it. It's one of my favorite things.
And if you're a church leader or a small group leader, or you're discipling some people, we have more content. If you go to the bottom of gracebomb.org, it's a link to Gracebomb Co. So you have a lot more there. And so you can dig in. There's videos and resources and all kinds of good stuff there.
Yeah.
And if you're a reader, because not everybody's a reader, but if you're into reading, we published a book last year with David C. Cook, and that you can just look that up on Google or Amazon and pick one up. And
it's called Grace Bomb.
It's called Grace Bomb.
Yeah.
The Surprising Impact of Loving Your Neighbor.
Yeah.
And there's actually,
good.
we put Grace Bomb cards in the back of the Grace Bomb book. Yeah.
That's
and they're
awesome.
like tear out.
That's
so it's kind of
awesome.
fun.
That's
so
great.
you can get them there too.
That's
great.
so
good. Yeah.
I'm just really I want to continue conversations even when we're done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Wrap it up, Tim.
Yeah. No, that can be like, like behind, like people can pay for that content, like special members. Subscribers content. That's rubbish. We don't have subscribers content. It's all free.
It's all good.
Thank you so much, Pat. It's your heart and what you guys are doing with Grace Bomb, you and Kristen.
Yeah.
We are just so behind you. Prayers are with you guys, and if you're listening, like pray for these guys, and get on to gracebomb.org, get your cards, and share this podcast with your group of friends, right? Don't do this alone. Get together with your small group, your group of friends from church, whoever it is, grab some Grace Bomb cards and like get Grace Bombing together, like craft up some plans, share your stories and go on the journey together of surprising people with love. So thanks so much, Pat. And we'll see you guys on the next pod.
Yeah. Goodbye. Mate, so
Goodbye.
good.
Goodbye.
Right. These cards look so good as well. They're like really beautifully made.
Yeah,
Really
fun.
good cards. Love them. Excellent.